Welcome to the SUAC Center's 20th Celebration Speaker Series. Today's guest speakers, Dr. Leodrey Williams and Dr. Leon R. Tarver II.
Dr. Williams and Dr. Tarver, could you briefly tell us why did the Ag Center start? What discussions were led around that? And what were some of the challenges that were faced in beginning the establishment of the Ag Center?
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here to be a part of this telecast commemorating the 20th anniversary of the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center, which was formally created by the Louisiana legislature to be effective July 1st, 2001. The climate at the time that this piece of legislation was passed was a very volatile time in Louisiana economically and politically. When I became president in 1997, we were in dire straits. Higher education was not being funded on a comparable basis with other institutions throughout the South and within our conferences. At that time, legislation had been offered in 97, 98, 99 to remove our extension program, to remove, not to give status to our law center. And in fact, at the time, the legislature only recognized a 3-campus system, which was the Baton Rouge campus, the New Orleans campus, and the Shreveport campus. Looking at the situation as it was, I discovered in looking at the consent decree that Southern had entered into under Dr. Spikes. We were in our 3rd or 4th year, and I noticed that in that consent decree, the Agricultural Extension Service Program and the law school were left out of the decree. So it gave us an opportunity to consider new strategies for how to preserve what we already had and to expand upon that. I turned to Dr. Leodrey Williams, who was director of the President's Office on Extension, who had many years of experience, not only in Louisiana, but across the country, to talk about how we could go about implementing a new initiative to make our law center a campus as opposed to a mere program. We were an 1890 land-grant institution established by federal legislation. There had been an 1860 initiative by the federal government, which created the 1862 campuses like LSU, and which was for white schools. At the time that was created, there were no Black colleges and universities in America. By the time the 1890 Land Grant Act was passed, there were a whole host of historically Black universities, primarily in the South, and Southern University was certainly one of those. So our initiative was to come forward with a piece of legislation that would create and establish the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center as a separate campus headed by a chancellor. That legislation passed with assistance from a number of sources. Among those, of course, we had the support of the governor, we had the support of LSU, we had support of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus, we had the support of almost everyone in higher education, because we saw and they saw a dire need for us to expand upon the services that we were extending throughout the state of Louisiana. In that regard, the bill was passed. And after it was passed, I recommended to the Board of Supervisors that we name Dr. Leodrey Williams the chancellor of that campus. There was no one in this state who know more about extension service and particularly the history of it at Southern University than he. And I'm proud at this moment to share this table with him and this discussion. And I'd like to ask Dr. Williams if he would enlarge upon this discussion.
Thank you very much, Prez. I still call him Prez when I'm addressing him in his presence. When extension is established at a lower level within the university system, it tends to take on the goals and objectives of that particular department. If it's established at a level above the college level or within the administration of the university, it takes on the goals and objectives of the total university. This gives us the opportunity to call on any department that we need to reach our clientele and to get the information that's needed to our clientele. For example, during the early days of more African Americans being elected to various positions within the state, small town mayors, police jurors, school board members, all of these things could be brought to bear because we could call on our sociology department, our political science department, our economics department, anyone who is needed to address the needs of clientele. So this gave us the opportunity to organize a college that addressed the needs of our clientele, which around the state everywhere. The clientele that we work with are not just in agriculture. People look at agriculture and they think that we are about agriculture. We are about meeting the needs of our people, meeting the needs of our clientele, regardless to where they are.
Would you have any questions of us, Ms. Lusk?
Yes, sir, I do. So what growth have you seen in the Ag Center over the last 20 years?
Well, let me add something here that I think is very important. Several years after we established the Ag Research Center as a separate campus, we saw a need to bring about a closer relationship between the practical programs that were being taught at the college level and the College of Agriculture with the Extension Service. And we did something rather innovative at that time. This is 2016. And what we did was to make the chancellor of the campus dean of the College of Agriculture, therefore bringing about not only a greater involvement of our student body, our faculty, as well as the researchers and administrators across our system. This coincided well with the statement that Dr. Williams made a few seconds ago about prioritization, that when you cast a program at a level, at the highest possible level, you expand its options and its opportunities. And he cited some of that. And I want to ask Dr. Williams if he could expand on that.
This brought us closer together. It still has to do with funding, but you're bringing all the funds into a single source under one administrator, so to speak. And when you look at the outreach efforts and what it brings to in bringing our clientele into the institution, when we think of this, we think of our going to our clientele. But in a land grant system, the clientele is connected to the university because there are a lot of activities that go on that the clientele is involved in. And when you have this kind of program that reaches everybody, it touches the whole family, the whole rural family, or wherever they are.
In addition to the rural aspect, there's an urban aspect of this as well. On the academic side, we saw an opportunity to be able to expand new academic programs in urban forestry, which was an entirely different area for us to move into, including in creating a new program in a PhD program in urban forestry, which is probably very rare among HBCUs throughout this country. So we've been able to recruit a larger group of students. And at the same time, we've been able to expand upon our relationship with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which has been a strong supporter of providing opportunities for our graduates to go to work in the state agencies, as well as the federal agency, which provides scholarship support for many of our students as well.
So earlier, well, a few moments ago, Dr. Williams mentioned land grant. So does each state have a land grant university, and how are these universities funded?
Each state does have a land grant university. The funding is done primarily, not primarily, but most of the money comes from the state. But it started with federal funds. A portion of the federal funds based on population, farm population, rural population, and a small portion of the money, matter of fact, 20% of the money is given to the land grant institutions on an equal share basis. But after that, it's based on rural population and farm population. So no two states get the same amount of funding. And that we talked about the local funding that's involved in this. And this includes police jurors, school board members. Some don't, it doesn't break it out as such that this is for extension, but someone has to provide office space, the office equipment, the local personnel who work there has to have somewhere to work. All of this is done at the local level, but the funding is both federal, state, and local in the land grant system.
So how is student enrollment and recruitment impacted by the land grant status? How does that impact the land grant status of a university?
We have had programs here conducted by the Ag Center. We called our Extension Exposition, our expo, where we brought students and parents and community leaders from every parish that we had a staff member in to come and participate in programs that demonstrated the some of the worth of extension being there. If it is no more than agricultural production, things that had been developed from family and consumer sciences, addressing the needs of the home. When you get this, just give you an example. There was a family we had who had sent 7 students to college, but 6 of those students had gone to other universities. The parents had never been to Southern University. We brought them here in one of our programs. That 7th child came to Southern University because the parents learned more about Southern. They learned to the Southern's campus and to actually participate, and they felt a part of this. I think if we had got to them earlier, the other 6 wouldn't have gone somewhere else. You're addressing your question. It's just we get involved with the family. That's the point I'm trying to make. The students know us when they get here. My first time on this campus was to participate in a Robert's Rules of Order training on a statewide basis. The meeting was held back in what we call the women's gym, I think, here on campus now. I don't know if the name has changed or whatnot.
It's the event center now.
Yeah, but you know, I came on this campus to participate in parliamentary procedure and in the Future Farmers of America program, the small farm, and as a result, I came back to school, and many other kids that we brought here is going through that same thing now. Livestock and poultry shows. All of these things provide an introduction to Southern from others.
So this is our final question, and it will go to both Dr. Tarver, you first, and then you, Dr. Williams. So what is the greatest takeaway that you have from the role that you played in the establishment of the Ag Center? Going to you first, Dr. Tarver.
Well, for me, as president of the Southern System, my concern was for the health and welfare of the entire system, all of its campuses, including this particular program. And it also meant securing the future for our students. I would like to think that the initiative that I led with the legislature in expanding our campuses from 3 to 5 was a very important one, because it not only provided stability, it stopped the efforts that were continuously being made to merge Southern University out of existence, to destroy our Board of Supervisors, and to put us in another system such as LSU. That is a foregone history. The other thing is that because of the consent decree, which was started under Dr. Spikes and extended through my 7 and 8.5 years, was the creation of many new academic programs, bachelor's degree programs, master's programs, and for the first time, PhD programs. When I first came here, we did not have a PhD program. Today, we have 7 or 8 PhD programs in the very least, and are working on others. That enlarges the academic base for an institution and provides a wider appeal for students across the nation, not just in Louisiana. There was a time at Southern's greatest height during my presidency, we had over 15,000 students. Today, it's a little over 12,000 students because of so many reasons that have negatively impacted upon the university. Yet we survive, and not only are we surviving, but we're doing well. We're expanding our programs, and the new programs are showing new promise. It allows us to be able to attract people like Dr. McMeans to this institution, that had we not created it at the level that we did, he probably wouldn't be sitting here. He'd probably be back in West Virginia State. But we're grateful to have him here, and you're going to hear from him shortly. But I think that is what it means to us. And by the way, I'm also a proud Southern University graduate.
Thank you, President. The takeaway for me is to look at where, I don't want to make it a personal thing, but where I came from in the system. In employment, we're still training people to work for the good of the country. I am the last person in America hired with the title of Assistant County Agent for Work with Negroes. That was my official title. Because of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, I was hired January of 65. But 64, the Civil Rights Act had passed, and they had to do away with these titles. But to go from that was as low as you could go. And to go from there to heading extension on a national level, where the funds from USDA went to all of the land grant universities, except Louisiana. I had to sign off on them, because I was the national director of extension. I could not sign all the forms for Louisiana because of reasons they believe that if you give people an opportunity, they may send something too much to one state or something, but I could not do it. My number 2 person had to do that for Louisiana. But to serve in this capacity and to see the growth and to see the need for getting people continuously trained to fill the positions that come available every year. A couple of years ago, I was in a meeting with the Secretary of Agriculture, who was saying, who's currently the Secretary of Agriculture again now, was how many people were needed in the agricultural community to just fill the need of those people who were retiring, and they're still needed. And they provide excellent scholarships for those students who were involved in agriculture in some way.
Thank you both, Dr. Tarver and Dr. Williams. I have no additional questions from the chat. But before I turn it over to Mr. Bennie Loyd, I would like to apologize to our audience for the many technical issues that we had, and remind you that this is being it's being recorded as we speak. And you can watch the recording at the SU Ag Center, www.suagcenter.com. Look at the top of the screen for the 20th anniversary page, and all of the information about our upcoming events and upcoming speakers will be located there as well. So at this time, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Loyd.
Thank you, Mrs. Luss. Dr. McMeans will now provide the closing words.
All right, thank you, Bennie, and thank you, Naya. You guys did a wonderful job. When you go through and present and be placed in roles like this, you'll look back on these experiences that help you grow professionally. So I think you guys did a wonderful job, and I know I'll have you back doing some other things. So thank you. And as I close out, when I asked Miss Lisa Williamson, to consider this idea about having a speaker series, the first two names came up, and it was immediately Dr. Tarver and Dr. Leodrey Williams, because it was just obvious to me, because I knew what Dr. Tarver had done prior to me getting here in the establishment of the Ag Center. And a lot of people don't know this about Dr. Leodrey Williams, besides being a good Sigma man. He was also, when I first started my professional career, my first day of trying to reestablish a land grant program that had been missing for 50 years. Dr. Williams was one of the people that helped me and guided me to the development of that program. So he and I go back a long ways. And so, but I just appreciate the fact that in your vision to elevate the mission. We are so unique at Southern University, and I tell people, because they've been here so long and they're living in the moment, they've seen this for 20 years, and they don't understand how unique this is. I think both Dr. Tarver and Dr. Williams hit up on it. It elevated the land grant mission. A lot of times when you have the land grant, and it seems like it's so bogged down within the university fabric that you forget that the whole basis of the institution are based on those three pillars, of teaching, of research, and extension. And so I was just, that's why I convey to other 1890s that Southern in itself is so very, very unique, and that you have a campus dedicated to that mission, and then having the academic piece connected and not disjointed as it relates to the students benefiting. And that's amazing, because the fact that our students have the experiential hands-on learning and research. I know Dr. York and I've been talking about even more engagement with the students as it relates to extension and extension opportunities. 35 to 40% of USDA officials will be, employees will be retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. We're not graduating enough students to fill those positions, and so it's incumbent upon us to carry the torch that was lit by Dr. Tarver and Dr. Williams to the next generation. And one of those things is via our 1890 scholarship program, JAG Stars, and other endeavors. Because I was joking with a guy at University of Illinois. He graduated with a bachelor's in engineering, and he got a job in suburbia Chicago making $95,000. I said, wow, that's pretty good money. I mean, not really for Chicago, but it's good money. I had a classmate, undergraduate, I was in graduate school, that graduated with a bachelor's in turf management, working in the same area, was making $125,000. So we have to get the word out that agriculture in the current sense is not what you may think of it as in the traditional. There is totally different. So I just feel honored to be Chancellor Dean and to have these two individuals who are, in my opinion, and I know they're humble, but they are icons as it relates to higher education and the land grant system. You can't go anywhere without any of the administrators or deans not knowing Dr. Leodrey Williams. I don't care. We have people on here now from other 1890s. I did look and peek over at the screen. And then as it relates to higher education leadership, Dr. Tarver. So I'm just thankful for you two gentlemen for, in your vision, elevating this area to what it is today. And even though I think that we've had great success, I think the future bodes even better for us. The things that I'm seeing, the quality of faculty and staff, our extension area, the leadership, our financial stability, all of those things put us in a good trajectory as it relates to what I guess the individuals, the founders, so to speak, envision this land grant area coming to as it relates to fruition. And so I just want to, again, just thank both of you. And I'll say this, Dr. Williams will always be a part of my professional career, because if it wasn't for some of the advice he gave me 22, 23 years ago, I think it was. I don't know where West Virginia State's land grant program would be, and I think it's one of the better, one of the more successful programs. And then I continue to lean on Dr. Tarver as it relates to navigating these Louisiana waters, whether that be politically or otherwise. And also just providing me some historical perspective of not only Louisiana, but of Southern University and higher education as a whole. So I appreciate both of you. And I know I'll be calling and talking to you about various matters, throughout the months and years. So thank you again, gentlemen, for being here and taking time and being patient as it relates to the couple of glitches that we had. But I appreciate your patience and your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And before I close, I may have to make sure, because I don't want my advancement officer to jump on me, but as we begin to wrap up, one of the things that we did last year, as we start to look at the vision for the Ag Center, is that we made ourselves become more intentional as it relates to fundraising efforts, as well as engaging Ag alumni. And so our new advancement officer, Robert Easley, has made some bold, I would call bold and audacious steps to make sure we increase giving as it relates to the Ag Center and the College of Agriculture, Family and Consumer Science. So as part of this, I will invite you to please join me in making 20th anniversary contributions or donation as it relates to the Ag Center and the College of Ag. And in order to give, just go to the Southern University or SUS Foundation website, click Give, then Campus Funds, and go to the Southern University Ag and Extension Center and make your donation. And this is new for us. It's the first time we've had this type of push for fundraising and philanthropic giving. And so we are excited about this. And so to all of you all that tuned in, I thank you. And this is just the beginning of our session. You can please join us for our next event, which will be June 3rd at 2:00 p.m. So with that, I thank you again. I thank the speakers, thank the students, Ms. Lusk, the communications team, also the lady who made it happen. I said the words, and Ms. Lisa Williams did what she does, and made this come through fruition. And thank you, and I thank my wonderful executive team. With that, this ends our session for today, and enjoy the rest of your day.